Good morning everybody and welcome back to the next training diary, which means I'm back home, but there's still quite a lot of fun ahead. Starting off, I'm going to be jumping Zen first thing. He is now, touch wood, back up and running, and doing really well, so let's hope that continues. Then going to do canter with my dad. I believe we'll probably work on definitely on changes, possibly on a little bit of passage, but we're really starting to focus in on Tempi changes with him, which is really fun and a little bit challenging. Then we'll be doing Bella, who is currently making a bit of a transition from event horse to working equitation horse. That's going to take years, but she is going to be doing, I think, a bit of Piaffe and integrating that into improving her trot work and her general way of moving. So a little bit, I've done something similar before, but we're kind of upping it a notch. I'll then finish off with little Dazzle, who is still doing groundwork, but I really feel he's almost ready for me to get back on board. It's been quite a hard slog, a couple of weeks, months really, of very hard work, but I do think we're starting to come out the other side. I'll explain to you though what exactly is going on with him a bit later. And then I have a bit of a bad update, which is that my little munchkin, little Jim Jam, is indeed in his stable on box rest. Hello cutie pie, thank you, that's really sweet. Hopefully just for the week. To cut a long story short, he got kicked very unfortunately, and went sound, but seems to have gone lame again. Might be nothing, hopefully nothing, but we're just being a bit cautious about it. So he's in for the next week. But anyway, that's my event season, gone off to a really bad start with no event horses up and running. But I'm sure we'll get there in the end. It's just the way life takes us. So let's get going. I'm expecting a very lovely sunny day, but everything's out, all the flowers, the blossom, and it's wonderful. Okay, buckle up, because in this video I'm going to get very analytical. Now this is one of Zen's first jumping sessions, proper jumping sessions back from rehab. And this is an opportunity for me to just get a idea of how he's doing physically, his technique, and what we need to address going forward, particularly compensatory patterns. And the thing that immediately jumps out to me is on the left lead, when he jumps, he changes behind, just like down there, to the right lead. And it happens pretty consistently. This means likely means there's a rotation to the right through his hind end, which could be a reflection of potentially old habitual compensation from his SI injury. It could be ongoing discomfort, which is something I need to just look out for. So maybe we haven't quite resolved an issue there. It could be a reflection of my position, because I have a particularly bad habit of twisting to the right over jumps, like there. Which means I put my weight in my left stirrup and come lighter on the right seat bone and right stirrup, and that gives him room to twist. And it could also be a reflection of some asymmetry in his strength behind. And I do know that Zen has a weaker right hind, so that is perfectly possible. Now, I think it's probably a combination of these things, and hopefully, I'll keep an eye out for discomfort. Hopefully that's not the problem. I think he's probably got asymmetry, he's probably got old habits that need addressing, and then there's my position. So that's 3 useful things for me to take away and look at working on. The other thing which you can see here, I would love for him to be a bit more settled. He was a keen bean, but I think that's something I can address quite easily through a bit more groundwork and a bit more jumping. Here I'm just going to put it in slow motion so you can see there's the cross. That was actually on takeoff, but he prefers to take off to jump and change to the right behind. Now the other thing that is worth noting is that he also jumps split behind. So here you see he jumps with one leg in front of the other, and a really good jumper jumps with the hind end evenly taking off. This could just be, he's always done it, so it's likely partly habit, and also possibly due to his racing past, that's how it's an easier way because it's more about jumping forward than pushing and jumping up. But yeah, it's nice to just be able to jump and see where he's at. I took Zen to a little working equitation training show the other day, just to see how he got on and get him out of the yard and everything, and it became quite apparent that I had not given him anything like enough preparation. He was very unsettled, really quite stressed. It wasn't my finest hour at all. So I think it was quite a good wake-up call to me that, you know, I've been that type of rider. That's not the rider I want to be in the future, and I need to pay really close attention to make sure it doesn't happen. And just, that's better. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, good. Yeah. Very nice, much better.
You can't be that hungry. You've had grass all night and you're really quite stout.
It's a double attack.
Basically wanting his hay.
I've actually just come into the house for a spot of breakfast. But we actually have quite a big clinic coming up this weekend. It's a clinic with Sophia Valenza. And I think we're going to be taking Tommy, Scandal and Bella. I've been umming and ahhing about whether to take Bella or Zen, but I think Bella is actually in a better position across the board. But that does mean also that my dad's been doing a lot more of the riding of Scandal recently, which is absolutely fine. They've just been getting ready. And I've not been focusing so much on some of our more, like developing a little bit more, just more getting his changes all sorted and good to go. So that's something my dad and him can work on a bit more at the clinic. Now, to do a correct clean change, you need to essentially create room for that new inside legs to come through. And to me, that feels like shifting the horse's weight to the outside and creating that bit of room on the inside. So for example, here on the left lead, I will shift the weight, his weight and balance to the left, and that creates room for the right to come through. Now, the more advanced the horse is, the straighter and the more subtle that shift should be. But in Tempi changes, there's pretty much no room to hide, because the moment you've done a change, you haven't got, if the balance is gone, you haven't got time to reorganize, you've got another change coming. The horse needs to stay straighter through the change and not throw its weight around and lose its balance. And that's something I find really difficult with Scandal, and that just reflects our current stage of training. And to help us at this stage, I do just yield him a little bit off the new outside. So basically I'll change and then I'll yield to the left to create room, change, yield to the right, change. And that just helps us create that bit of space while we learn the ropes. But you can really see in this line that where our crookedness comes out, he changes to the left and shifts the weight to the right, but the right is where he needs to create space for the hind to come through, and that's why it went wrong there. But we managed to correct it, and the last 3 were very lovely. And here we attempt 2s, but similarly, he curls up in the first and third change to the left. So you'll see here, he curls up there, and then all his weight and his balance is incorrectly to the right, and he can't bring that right side through for the second and fourth changes. And this time we have another go, and it's far from perfect, but you can see where the curl is slightly less exaggerated and I maintain better balance. He's just able to bring that side through, and the 2 times work absolutely fine. So there's a lot to work on there, but also lots of good stuff in the changes. Now the other thing I just wanted to show you was some canter pirouette work we're doing with Scandal. In a canter pirouette, the hind legs should maintain a nice canter rhythm, so tum-tum, tum-tum, ta-tum. But Scandal has a tendency to block behind, so his hind legs tend to land together, like there. Now, the work we're doing here is less actually about the pirouettes and more about a collection issue where he doesn't really understand and finds it hard to maintain that canter rhythm behind. So what I'm doing, keeping in mind that he's staying in a mentally good place, is I'm saying to him, I'm just going to keep you in quite a collected canter until you find that rhythm, and the instant he finds that rhythm, I'm going to stop the canter, give you a pause and give you a breather. And this is really just about retraining his understanding of what he needs to do. It's not that he can't do it, he has the strength. There, unfortunately, he changed, but there were some strides before the change where it was good. He's got the strength, he just doesn't really have that pathway and that understanding that that's what we want of him. So it's just something that we need to sort out before we can really develop a proper pirouette. And that was quite a lot better there. Also very aware that I'm wearing very bright orange johns. I kind of like them. I know they're very luminous, but don't judge too hard. Now the idea of this work is that we use the Piaffe to create lift through Bella's shoulders and get her sinking a bit more on her haunches. And from there, we ask her to slightly open up her stride without losing that lift through her shoulders and that articulation behind. Bella's real struggle with flat work is that she's very long in front and very heavy in front, which means she finds it really hard to really lift up through that shoulder. This isn't something that can be easily corrected, and I think especially not through compressing a more open trot. I think it's much easier and more effective to take a more compressed trot and ask her to keep that balance and that lift and open up her stride from there. So this is very, very difficult work for her, and you can see there's signs of tensions that reflect that. So I only ever do very small chunks of this at a time, and I'm very conscious that she's happy and she comes back to walk and she's relaxed and she doesn't maintain mental tension. As you will have seen, we started just by working on the plain Piaffe, and then we started asking her to slightly open up her stride. But it's really difficult with Bella to stop her from splurting out front or not getting any meaningful opening up of her stride. We're not going to see any major changes, but we're going to see little improvements over time as she gains better strength and she understands better what I'm asking and how I'm asking her to move, because it's a big change we're asking her to do. Now, when a horse finds something difficult, it's very easy to get, as a rider, strong in the aids. So this is something I'm really trying very hard not to do here. I'm trying to stay light with my hands, and honestly, my legs don't do very much beyond the occasional squeeze. It's really important that she ends up being able to do this in a light way and doesn't become a heavy horse and I'm not hauling on her and doing all sorts of nasty stuff. But I do think you see over time that she is gradually being able to maintain a better trot and, I'll mix in some other work as well to keep things fresh. As I said, this isn't something I sustain for long periods of time. The next step is sort of doing a Piaffe to canter, which is again another type of the same thing. It's taking that sinking in the haunches and that lifting through the wither and asking her to move it forward into canter. It's a really difficult but really good exercise for her, and you can really see how when she strikes off how much she has to sit and flex that inside hind. And this next transition's a little bit softer. She can't maintain it very long, but it's softer. So those are two things I'm looking for: more sit and lift through the shoulder, but also softness. So both I'm rewarding, and you can see the quality of the trots improved there. And here you can see the quality of the canters improved as well. It's not perfect. I'd like her much longer in the neck. I'd like the base of the neck to be lifted a bit more, whereas the top of the neck I would like to be a bit less swan. It's sort of a bit swan-necked. But it's all a work in progress. It's quite early stage for this work. And again, here you can see the quality of trots improved, how much more articulation she's got behind, the better lift through the shoulder. And again, it's not perfect. You can see there she still struggles to sink those haunches, but you get glimmers of where she really starts to sit and work, like that little bit at the end there. So anyway, this is just something I'm playing around with her at the moment, and it's very sensitive work, and you've got to be very conscious of the horse's mental and physical capacity for this sort of work. But I'm confident Bella's strong enough, and I'm actually interested to just see where it goes from here and how it develops. We very unfortunately haven't yet managed to get on top of Bella's eye condition. So it's still very up in the air which direction her career is going to head in. But that's kind of why I'm now focusing a little bit more on the flat work, partly because like I can't jump her anyway at the moment. The query really is whether it's going to be safe and fun for her to be out jumping, competing, as opposed to, you know, she can do flat work that's never going to be unsafe and it's never going to knock her confidence. And she can, you know, when I know that she's doing well, we can then do little bits of jumping at home, maybe go to the odd show jumping show, but the eventing is still a big query and something that I haven't yet got an answer to. And I probably won't for a few more months, so enjoy me in every video now discussing Bella's eye and her potential career change. So to explain to you what's going on with Dazzle, he has switched from being quite closed down and in freeze mode to being a little bit more flighty. He's a bit overstimulated, which is actually, I think, a promising sign. It's just something that we're now trying to work through, and it's a kind of a switch up from the work we've been doing so far. Hi! Hi, little boy! Oh my god, he's so cute. Look at him. Oh my god, you're so cute. Go on then. Okay, now time for some more experimenting, and what I'm doing here is trying to find a way to basically keep Dazzle's attention, because when I have Dazzle's attention, I'm finding nowadays that he's actually really in tune with me and I'm able to move him and work with him quite nicely. But the difficulty for me is keeping and catching his attention. So first thing I'll do with him is ask him to bring his attention back to me just using the hand. Then if I feel I don't get a good response, I will wave the flag a little bit and that just grabs his attention and brings it back to me. Similarly, if I feel he's distracted when I ask him to move and not really tuning into me, I'll back it up with a little wave of the flag. And I wanted to play around with the flag in particular because I thought it might be a good way of increasing my volume without increasing the physical pressure I'm placing on him, which for someone as sensitive and as internalised as Dazzle is really quite key. He has quite a difficult relationship with pressure already, and I don't really want to be aggravating that. I want to be improving it, not increasing the pressure I'm using. So this session doesn't have a huge amount of structure to it. I'm just asking him to move about me. I'm trying to get him to respond to my body language. That is the key. I want him tuned into what I'm asking before I've used any sort of real pressure beyond body language. And I'll ask various different questions. I'm really just trying to test where he's at, how he's feeling, and whether there's any gaps in his knowledge. So for example here, I'm just asking for his shoulder to move and he's not quite responding, so I'm using the flag a little bit and I get a nice step, and all I want from him is a tiny step, even a shift in weight that tells me he's heard and understood the question. And sometimes I have to be a little bit gentle and persist with it. And there he came into me, so I got a little bit, and then he moved away, and that's when I release. And if I feel he's getting frustrated, like there I felt that the lack of responsiveness came from frustration, so I just moved him and did something else as soon as I got a good response, to just help keep things different and not make him feel like he's stuck and being asked the same thing a lot. I did quite a lot of work with the flag before this work, just to make sure he was happy and confident with it and not nervous about the flag itself. But Dazzle's a very curious person, so the other issue really is he can be too curious about the flag, and it has potential to almost become a distraction in itself. But yeah, I think it's been very interesting playing around with this a little bit, and I was saying in the video, but I really do feel like he's coming to a point where like this ability to respond to pressure is so different to when I stopped riding him, and I feel we're getting to a point where I can now feel confident I'll get on board and he has some sort of understanding of pressure, and that will be much more manageable under saddle. And what I love about here is he was a little bit slow off the body, and then we just work around with it a bit, and then he gets better and better, and he just goes with my body language instead of the rope. So I think the last couple of weeks have been especially challenging for me with Dazzle, because of two reasons really. I'm quite an emotional person still, despite working quite hard at it, and as a result, especially when I feel unsafe, and particularly physically, when, you know, if Dazzle startles or something that makes me feel unsafe, I tend to get a bit reactive. So trying to manage that and not let that sort of go into a unobjective place in his training, so I don't start acting out of emotion rather than just calmly and objectively responding to what he's doing, is quite intense and hard work for me. And it's something I'm going to be working on for years and years and years still. And the other reason is that one of my biggest flaws as a horsewoman and rider is that I sometimes lack clarity in my aiding. So I can be a bit grey, I can be a bit fuzzy and blurry. Whereas when a horse is in this stage of its development, I mean in all stages, but this is a very key one, they need absolute clarity in aids. So trying to work through that and manage it in an area that I'm especially weak in is not easy for me, and it's been brilliant. You know, I've learned a lot. It's been brilliant at showing me where I stand, which is that I've got more work to do. But it's been quite intense. So I do feel he's a couple of weeks away from being back under saddle, and I do feel like we're making real progress and on the sort of final little bit of that work. But I'll be very, very relieved when I can crack on with the riding, which is what I've done more of in the past. It's more where I'm comfortable. I still don't feel at home doing the horsemanship work, and I've still got so much to learn. Good boy. Well, that's pretty much me done for the day. I just need to catch them all in later on this evening. And otherwise, yeah, that's all the horses done. It's been an amazingly quick day, to be honest, but it is a work day, so I now need to go and work. I think I'm at a really interesting point with a lot of the horses at the moment. I've been really tackling some major changes in their way of moving or their way of thinking. And I do think that I'm starting to come out the tail end of that for a lot of them, and my aunt just showed up and I'm too embarrassed to be caught filming myself in public. So anyway, it's all coming along. I strongly believe I will see you guys next in a next training video, which will be in 2 weeks' time. And until then, have a lovely couple of weeks, and if you're in the UK, enjoy the sun.